So, with some trepidation, let me move on to the next section and as an outsider make a few observations on what I'm seeing in the finance world. So who could miss all this excitement in the ESG market? I mean, it really is exhilarating to see the number of funds that are growing, the money flows, all the business opportunities that are emerging because of this activity. And the surveys that really surprised me to show the high percentages of the public that really want these funds. And then on the wilder side, many companies and investors alike are challenged by just the volume of data and the disparate kinds of metrics, the different ways of defining materiality sometimes. Some are concerned. We heard this earlier with the concern of greenwash becoming more problematic because this is such a popular trend now. And some are wondering how all of this growth in ESG funds kind of reconciles with the increased money that is going into fossil fuel exploration. So we're still on the frontier, but it does seem like some law and order is coming in, like the fantastic work that the CFA Institute is doing to help members sort through all of this. I do attribute some of this momentum to the influence and the outspokenness of Governor Mark Carney, who we heard mentioned earlier, who was, of course, governor of the Bank of Canada, then went on to Bank of England, and then now, starting this year, is the UN's Special Envoy on Climate. I remember his speech 5 years ago before the insurance industry when he said that once climate change becomes a defining issue for financial stability, it may already be too late. And I remember the eloquence that he used in defining the problem as the tragedy of the time horizon. You know, when political and business decision cycles were just way too short to internalize the risk of climate change. He may not have been the first, of course, to sound those alarms, but when an influential central bank like that puts climate change and financial instability together in the same sentence, markets pay attention, and they certainly have. That TCFD framework that we heard earlier has become part of the vernacular, and it already has led to better reporting and more reporting, without which, of course, the risks would go undetected. And because central banks have to roll up all of that data so that they can better understand and take action for the risk on the economies that they are responsible for, it's not surprising that they're going to want more harmonization of the metrics, and they're going to lead towards mandatory disclosure, which seems like a very good idea. Some other developments in the finance industry have caught my attention. The Network for Greening the Financial System, quickly grown to now over 50 central banks and covering over half the world's greenhouse gas emissions, absent the US Federal Reserve, unfortunately. Climate 100 Plus, with investors representing more than $45 trillion in assets, actively engaging with the world's top emitting companies, and of course welcoming the new member BlackRock. Got a lot of ink this week with very, very good reason. The Net Zero Asset Owners Alliance is a partnership of pension funds and insurers that are pledging to make their whole portfolios go net zero in line with the scientific target. And then there's a watchdog, an institutional performance, or investors themselves, the Asset Owners Disclosure Project. And in fact, recently they came out with a survey that said that over 60% of the world's pension funds don't have climate strategies in place. You've probably noticed that I've used the word influence several times, and I do think that is key to why I think your role is so important right now and why you will receive more and more attention in the next years because of the role that you play in helping our economies transition. Wherever you are in the industry, you have the potential to influence in a way that very few others can. And I think some of that has to do with the ability to translate abstract risk and opportunity into hard currency. Take the insurance industry for sure. You know, when the insurers raise premiums and explicitly link it to increasing risks of climate change, that has an impact. or when Moody's announced a couple of years ago that cities were likely to get credit devaluations or lowering their credit ratings if they didn't take more action. Well, that got the attention of city managers faster than any other thing that I can think of. And as financial planners, you have such an opportunity to not only educate your clients about the different kinds of funds, but to redirect money doing that. And then your interactions with government officials to not only bolster them because they do have tough jobs, and supporting them is important, but also helping them shape the best financial instruments for most efficiently get to the climate goals we need.